Come on, 2, Juliet, take 5 pick up.
I didn't just bring you here to see the photographs. There's something else.
This is my grandpa's old map. It's the map of days.
It shows you where loops are.
Map of days is a map of varying dates, locations, and places where loops are made. Miss Peregrine uses her little stopwatch and some voodoo magic to literally stop time and turn a switch and reverse it 24 hours. And she just does that every day.
And she creates this loop to protect the children from horrible monsters.
Well, a loop preserves the last 24 hours. Reset the loop, and the day is yours to live in again.
I think the pop culture reference of Groundhog Day is probably the way to most clearly describe it to anyone, in which the same things happen again and again, and but those that live in it can react differently, interact differently.
And bomb, bring it up, and click. What I liked about it is it reminded me of a device that I'd seen in things like old Twilight Zones or Outer Limits.
When you stay to see the reset, Jake, it's really quite spectacular.
We've got real time-lapse photography being done on location. We've got a huge lighting array to kind of simulate day and night time-lapse sun movement and kind of moving shadows across people's faces and across the ground. We've got also, just to complicate things further, it's raining in the scene, but it's raining at the start of the scene and not at the end. So as she turns time backwards, the rain falls backwards and it stops raining. So we've got some kind of reverse photography to do. We want to tell the story that time's running backwards and it's coming back to the previous day.
When I was writing the book, I was looking for a visual reference to describe the house. Something beautiful, something amazing, something torn down, something, ruined. When we first walked onto this set and saw this house, it was just like an out-of-body experience, because here was this place that I had described, imagined, suddenly conjured into reality. It looks like my story. This place looks like a magical building where amazing people live, and something dark has happened, and, great things are still going to happen.
Sometimes it's instinct, and I think Tim, when he saw in the house, even though we've changed a few things, he felt the personality of Torenhof being right for the children. And sometimes, it's like for me when I'm looking for locations prior to a director seeing them, sometimes it's a gut feeling. You walk in and you just get the personality of a place.
Mark it, Ben. 81 apple, take one on me.
Hey, good. When I saw it, walking through the trees and saw it, I just thought, wow, it wasn't like an institution or a hospital, it was like a home. And it just felt to me like, this seems like a home for peculiar children, so that was it. It's like when you cast an actor or whatever, it's just like, well, it seems right. And it was also a real house, which I think helped, especially with the kids. I think it helps with anybody. You're in a real place, you get to feel it as opposed to see it at the premiere after doing green screen on it.
Okay, and action! How did you know about the pub?
You weigh approximately 109 pounds, correct?
Miss Peregrine's home was actually shot in Belgium, in Antwerp, and it was such an unbelievable Gothic house. And I was like, okay, Miss Peregrine could live in this house. To be in this house, in this garden, just made things kind of easy for me. You don't have green screen, it's real, it helps for the mood, and you're like, okay, I'm in the movie I thought I was doing,
I can't believe you're real. You're all real. I've never been anywhere like this. When I first sort of drove up around the corner on the horse and cart, it's the first thing we'd done, and I hadn't actually seen the house, so my reaction is real. I'm looking up, I'm like, whoa. It's tall and it's sort of twisted. It's got huge spikes and spires. It really looks something out of a fairy tale, which I think Tim really wanted to capture, both in the house as well as the garden around it, and the trees which are shaped as monsters and animals, almost like Edward Scissorhands. It's really cool.
In fact, it's almost more about bringing some of the dark from the back
And into this.
on the forward.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Oh, that's actually much better than that.
No, it's very good, that.
When the house was first found and it was becoming more apparent that we could use it, then we had to decide what we were going to do with it. And what you see now is very different to the house that we saw when we saw it for the first time. It had basically been empty for about 5 or 6 years. There'd been a caretaker living it, so it wasn't derelict, but it meant that the interiors had quite a strong patina about them. And the initial idea was that Tim wanted to almost shoot everything here, exteriors and interiors. He loved the idea that you could move through the house, in and out of the house. But there are certain practicalities in the script and what happens on the interior in action sequences, which meant we really had to consider building some of those interiors at home.
Crap, it's almost reset.
We've got bigger problems than getting you home, Jake.
That's what I'm talking about.
50% now of the interiors that we see in the film are shot on the stages in London, but they're matching to the interiors here. So there's a sort of crossover in both of those sort of locations. Well, the condition of the house itself, the walls, the floors, the fabrics, they were almost in the correct period for us when we first saw it. But of course, we wanted to bring our own style and colour to that with Tim. So in fact, the architecture is more or less the same, but we've changed all the colour palettes, all the fabrics, all the wall finishes, all the furnishings to fit into our probably, we're 1943 officially when the house is full of its children, but we're presuming it's been dressed from prior to that, so our furnishings and decorations are from the 20s, sort of further forward.
A bomb dropped on you in 1943.
It is 1943.
September the 3rd, 1943.
All day, every day. It's our loop.
The choice in the book of having that sort of World War II setting, it's, especially in Britain, obviously a fascinating period, and aesthetically it's unique, and because it's got the sort of leftover remnants of sort of 30s design, but with that kind of 40s shabbiness, and so the time loop exists in that period, and that was something we very much wanted to keep from the book.
There's something about finding a location like this which is 90% there. And there are just things in it, idiosyncratic things that you look at that you would never really have thought about doing as a designer, but they just happen to be real.
You want to muck around? Your bees! Get it!
Most of the greens you see here, apart from the trees, is us. It was a very sort of bare landscape. It hadn't really been looked after a while. So anything up to about 6 feet, 8 feet, even higher, some of the smaller trees to block out some things we didn't want to see, is all us.
There was a pond, a great garden. They added some animal topiaries, like a centaur, dinosaur, elephant. It was very Tim Burton, actually.
Well, I just like all the different elements. It all came together in a house, and it just felt to me like that was part of the spirit of the book. When I saw the kids are bonding with each other, that was very special to me. And films do create that, but this one, because it's about kind of family, it made it even stronger to me in terms of like that connection of why you like making films.